University's dorm, Falconio. Welcome to my dorm room. Woo, woo, woo. It's Halloween and I'm in here. It blows. But today I'm going to talk to you about Benedict Arnold, America's greatest trader. Benedict Arnold was born into Norwich, Connecticut. That's not right. It's onto. No, it's not. It is at. For starters, his childhood was actually a well-to-do childhood until his father actually drank away all of his family's money. Don't mind these. I'm not about to drop a mixtape. I just can't afford a microphone because I'm a poor college kid, so this is what I have to use. But eventually, this would push him to join the army and fight in the French and Indian War. And this would lead him to be the greatest general of all time. Just kidding, he actually wasn't. He was just like a regular soldier in the French and Indian War, but he did get experience. We're going to fast forward a few years into the American Revolution. So now let me introduce my good friend Brennan, who will talk about the military life of Benedict Arnold.
Throughout Benedict Arnold's military career, he was never really given credit for any of his achievements. His capture of Fort Ticonderoga was never credited to him because of Ethan Allen and his men that took credit for the victory. Arnold then traveled to Canada, where he tried to take over control of Quebec. The Americans were wildly unsuccessful. They lost the battles. Arnold was shot in the leg, but he refused to leave the city until they were triumphant. Once they were finally forced out, Arnold was then made Brigadier General by General Washington for his efforts in the battles. However, the most famous Benedict Arnold scandal was the Battle of Saratoga, where he and his troops were never given credit for their participation in the battle. You know how you got shot in Quebec in the leg? Well, he got shot again in the same leg at Saratoga. Never getting credit for participation in the Battle of Saratoga, it kind of really sent Arnold over the edge, which ultimately led him into a downward spiral leading to the betrayal of his country.
Finally, he was given command of the city of Philadelphia by George Washington, and he ended up meeting his wife, Peggy Shippen, who would turn out to be from a really wealthy family. He was also 20 years older than her, which is as you make it. This turned to be a problem for him because he couldn't afford great wealth. He liked to live it, but he couldn't afford it, so he started fudging books, taking government money, and all this stuff, and he actually ended up getting court-martialed twice. So now we get to the good part, the betrayal. Now, after all this, Arnold was given command of the base West Point. West Point was a very strategic fort for the American Army as it overlooked the Hudson River, and Benedict Arnold saw that and he knew that, so he saw that the British could actually probably like to take it, even though he was supposed to defend it and not overturn it. So the businessman that hates Congress in him saw that he could probably turn this over to the British for a pretty penny, so he began to make negotiations with a major, John Andre, and this would eventually lead to them wanting to meet in person, which would end up being the downfall of the whole plot. John Andre's commander told him to make sure he never wore civilian clothes. He had to go as a British officer. No matter what the circumstances are, he was not supposed to go in civilian clothes. He went in civilian clothes, and it didn't really work out for him that well because he eventually got caught after the meeting with Benedict Arnold with documents on him. The fact that he was in civilian clothes made him a spy. That would lead to his hanging. From his hangings, he would go down in history as the most beloved spy, because he was actually well-liked by most people besides the American patriots, who also hated Benedict Arnold just as much as they hated Andre, so he fled, and actually when the war ended, he lived in London, where he didn't have much going on for him. He didn't have many friends because he was a traitor, and they still didn't trust him because he threw away his whole country for 6,000 pounds, so he really had trouble making friends. Eventually he died in June of 1801, thus ending the great life of the greatest trader in all of time. But we still have to ask the question, did we force him to become a traitor? Like, how far can you really push a man before they jump over the edge? Or in this case, jump to the other side of the edge.
Boo!
That was such a bad joke.
But in the end, maybe it wasn't all his fault. Maybe the American people had some part to doing it too. But that's all we have for you today on Hair History in 4 minutes now because I overdid it by a minute. But tune in next episode where we talk about something my teacher tells me to talk about. Bye. Like the video, subscribe, whatever I said is. And that's all I got, so get dramatic. Benedict Arnold was college. She's a nasty woman. She's a very nasty woman.
But they ain't the only ones. No, no. What they